What's up, YouTube fragrance family? Tommy with Studio Sense here. Welcome to another day and another video. Happy that you could take some time out of your busy day, and I'm going to make it worth your while because I've got 10 fragrances that we're going to be talking about today that are subtly sexy. Now, what do I mean by subtly sexy? I'm not going to tell you right now. Let's roll that intro. When we return, I'm going to show you these 10 fragrances. We'll talk about them in detail. That and more is coming your way, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Again, super happy that you could be here. I wanted to give you a couple of examples of what I mean by subtly sexy. You've heard of the phrase loud when it comes to fragrances, right? Fragrances that have this tremendous body and performance, and someone that walks within 3 to 4 foot radius of you is going to smell this fragrance. Well, these are not that type of fragrances. These are fragrances that, while they do have body, while they do have performance, they are a bit softer. If you were to look at them on a scale, a sine wave scale, a sine wave is something that it's like a heart monitor, you know, it goes up and down like that to a specific cadence. It would be more like this, you know, like the wavy lines instead of sharp. To give you some fragrance examples so you know what I'm talking about, Sean John's 3 AM is a soft, subtle, yet powerful, evocative, sexy fragrance. Another example would be Hugo Boss's Boss Bottled Eau de Parfum, the relatively newer version. This is a soft, subtle, but very sexy and provocative, evocative fragrance. So these are just 2 examples that aren't in this list, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the list. Without further ado, I think you fully understand now what I mean by subtly sexy fragrances. Instances where a whisper is more powerful than a shout. The first fragrance we're going to look at is incredibly aromatic tea fragrance by Bulgari. It is Bulgari Pour Homme Soir. It's a very evocative, subtly sexy fragrance that simply has Darjeeling tea. It's got amber, papyrus, and musk in the base. It can be worn at any time, but it's a really great spring and summer fragrance. You will not offend anyone wearing this fragrance. It's one of those fragrances that if someone was within your scent bubble, your radius, they smell a little bit of it, they want to smell more, they come closer. It's just one of those, I guess, come hither kind of fragrances. Bulgari Pour Homme Soir. Next up in our list of 10 subtle yet sexy, evocative whisper fragrances is a fragrance by Guerlain. It is L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme. This is one of those very subtle, light, hay kind of fragrances. When I say hay, I mean it's got like a light hay accord. It opens with lemon, star anise, bergamot, elemi, so an effusive amount of spices. Middle notes are a smoke accord, hibiscus, jasmine, and a tea note similar to Bulgari Pour Homme Soir. The base has patchouli, sandalwood, and a cacao pod. It just adds, it doesn't really add a chocolatey feel to it, but it adds a warmth and a depth to it that otherwise wouldn't be there. One of the little known hidden gems in my estimation, L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme. It's the old style bottle. The new bottle, of course, is the square that you're familiar with, like L'Homme Ideal. It's in the same kind of bottle style. Extremely effective fragrance, really a good date night fragrance. Overall, great signature scent, L'Instant de Guerlain Pour Homme. 2021 saw the release of a brand new fragrance in the Le Male line of fragrances that fits that category of whisper or subtly sexy fragrances, and it's actually Le Male on Board. Le Male on Board takes that Le Male DNA and just simplifies it. You've got bergamot, geranium, and tonka bean, basically, and that's pretty much it, along with some other notes in the background, again, that pushes forth what you're already familiar with in the Le Male scent profile. Wonderfully effective. In fact, I'm actually wearing this today, and I was trying to get in the bathroom as my wife was coming out, and she passed me. She was like, "Oh, what are you wearing? That smells wonderful." She's really hard to please when it comes to men's fragrances, but she loves Le Male on Board by Jean-Paul Gaultier. There's no question as to whether leather is a sexy kind of texture, substance, textile, whatever adjective you want to use. And in men's fragrance, it definitely imbues a kind of sexy overall ambiance in the fragrance DNA. And that is exactly what Ferragamo Intense Leather does. It's not like a super strong medicinal leather like Gucci Guilty Absolute, although it is slightly reminiscent of that. It's much more dumbed down. It's a lot softer. To me, it's more of a soft, subtle, sexy kind of leather, and it's got a bit of a citrus overtone too, which is in the original Ferragamo. And that's kind of unusual because normally leathers go in the darker arena. This one's going on the lighter side, but it is wonderfully effective, even as soft as it is, and I highly recommend it. The citrus is brought about by mandarin orange, it's pushed by pink pepper, it's spiced up by clary sage. There's Anarcha apple, lily of the valley, and iris in the heart. You've got oak moss, earthy tones, musk, and of course the eponymous leather that makes this such a wonderful fragrance, Salvatore Ferragamo's intense leather. It's no secret that, of course, Gourmand Fragrances are edible. And if you ever watched the old movie with, I forgot her name, it's 9.5 Weeks. I think there was a scene where they're like getting ready to have sex or something and they're like eating food out of a fridge. I don't personally understand the appeal of smearing an uncooked egg over your face and saying, let's have sex. But Gourmand is definitely a sexy kind of fragrance, and this particular fragrance uses Gourmand in a very soft, masculine, yet effective way. It is a Paco Rabanne fragrance. It is Ultra Red Man. I'm holding it with the wrong hand. Ultra Red Man is, of course, a discontinued fragrance, but it's not currently hard to find. Of course, like I do with every video, I'll leave links so that you can check out the individual fragrances, and if you're interested in purchasing them, you'll have the opportunity to do so. Grab this one up. If you like lightly orangey, smooth, musky, kind of gourmand fragrances, and there aren't a ton of them out there, that's exactly what Ultra Red Man is. And it's so pleasant, and it's so very wearable. It's not the extremely heavy gourmand, it's just lightly musky gourmand, and is very, very wearable. And again, another great example of a whisper doing more than a shout. Ultra Red Man by Paco Rabanne. Along those same lines, another fragrance that is actually very similar, kind of like a creamsicle gourmand, is a fragrance by Lolita Lempicka, and it is Green Lover. Green Lover is not the best name for this fragrance because there's really nothing green about it. Yes, this is not the cap that came with this, by the way. This is from the original Lolita Pour Homme, but I'll take it off. It's a tester, so it came without a cap. But this fragrance, let me tell you, again, if you are a lover of Paco Rabanne's Ultra Red, you'll automatically like this because it's very similar in body. Similar to Ferragamo Intense Leather, this one opens with Szechuan pepper and it's got mandarin orange. In the heart, you get a nice minty peppermint with juniper berry. And in the base is where it comes around to that warm bourbon vanilla and musk. It's such a great mix of these notes. They all work really well together, promoting the best aspects of the fragrance itself. And that is Lolita Lempicka's Green Lover. Fantastic fragrance for the price. The next fragrance came out in, I think, 2016 by Yves Saint Laurent, is one of the better known L'Homme fragrances by Yves Saint Laurent, or YSL, and it is L'Homme Ultime. In a lot of ways, Ultime is the ultimate fragrance. It has such a sophisticated bearing for such a relatively simple fragrance. It projects simply, it draws people in. It has that ethereal kind of ephemeral here, now, and gone a moment later, but you turn around and it's still there. You've got grapefruit, ginger, cardamom, rose, clary sage, vetiver, cedar, just a ton of wonderful notes working in perfect harmony and unison. Probably one of the better known fragrances in the L'Homme line by Yves Saint Laurent, Ultime. This next fragrance, when it was released, it got a lot of love from the community, but not a ton of people talk about it still yet. It is Mugler Cologne, or Come Together, as some call it, when it was rebranded, rebottled, but it's the same formula. This fragrance is a lightly green, soapy fresh fragrance that has this special S accord in it. It's like a soft, warm, kind of sun-kissed skin accord. That, along with the soapy essence, you've got that green petit grain that makes it perfect for spring and summer, a little bit of heavy weight to it, and a white musk, and of course that special S accord that gives it its kind of sensuality. Come Together, or Mugler Cologne by Mugler. Next up is a fragrance that was released in the Givenchy line of fragrances. It's a new release for 2022. And in the line of Givenchy Gentleman fragrances that feature that iris note, it's really strong, can be very sharp, can be kind of overbearing at times. This one is a bit softer with the additional note of booze. To me, that makes it more of a sensual, provocative, evocative fragrance, and a great example of a whisper fragrance, or a subtle or subdued fragrance instead of a loud glaring or blaring fragrance. It is Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Prive by Givenchy. I really enjoy this, and I've really come to enjoy it as kind of a special skin scent. Because of the bergamot, the iris, the chestnut, the amber, the whiskey notes, and some other earthy tones like patchouli, this fragrance has a magnificent bearing. And I don't use the word magnificent ever, but in relation to this fragrance, I've come to really enjoy that, the tonality of it, and that kind of that whiskey barrel feel and smell, which is part of the actual appeal and to the musky kind of skin scent nature of the fragrance. Try it out, you will really enjoy it. I just sent off the giveaway winner a couple samples of this along with a bunch of others. You'll really enjoy it. Another fantastic example of subtly sexy being a lot more powerful and impactful than a loud fragrance. Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum Reserve Prive. Last of our 10 whisper fragrances that are evocative, more powerful in many ways than a loud fragrance, is a fragrance by Dolce & Gabbana in the One line of fragrances. It is Dolce & Gabbana The One Grey. This is an underappreciated fragrance in my estimation. It's overshadowed by the more popular in the line, specifically the One Eau de Parfum, but it's extremely effective if you're wanting to have a date night, intimate, romantic setting and situation. This is the kind of fragrance that you want to wear. If you're just getting into a relationship with someone and it's tentative still in those stages, in those early stages of discovery, but you're wanting to amp it up a bit, kind of ramp it up, get more intimate, find out more information, exchange more information, as well as DNA. This is the kind of fragrance that I recommend. Similar to the One Eau de Parfum, you've got cardamom, grapefruit, lavender, vetiver. You do have the tobacco absolute in here still. The difference here is it's using gray woods and a bit of ambergris or ambroxan to give it its overall bearing. Underutilized in my estimation. Try it out. The One Grey by Dolce & Gabbana. Well guys, that puts a wrap on my 10 whisper fragrances that have more of an impact than those loud overbearing fragrances at time, or have an equal impact to those, and in some cases even better. If you've got any experience with these fragrances, I really would like to hear what your experience is like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or if you feel like there are other fragrances that I missed, because there are quite a few out there that are very similar in the whisper fragrance category, or the evocative, softer, or more subtle skin scent category. Let me know what those are as well. Thanks so much though for stopping by and checking out today's video. As always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.